They're actually built on site and they don't have any connections or services. They're just a room.
We're talking changing rooms though. That's what these guys want.
Yes, but I think they're expecting toilet showers and everything in this changing room, aren't they? Because there isn't anything else.
Well, I don't think we're going to deliver it. Are we going to deliver toilet showers and everything
For the
in a
interim?
temporary solution?
Yes, we've been looking into the portacoms that come all in one and can just be dropped on site and plumbed in.
Okay.
Are these services still existing where the old building was in terms of water, wastewater, etc.?
Yes.
A qualified yes. Any other questions? Yeah, Councillor Taylor.
Sorry, just a quick one on this. This ground looks to be very, very crowded and really, really well used. Do you see a future where, even with facilities like they're proposing, that we just haven't got enough room on that park for all these people?
Actually, I was going to say no. My understanding is, we went through a concept process for Arataki Park recently, where we engaged with all of the stakeholders there, and there's Arataki Rugby and the Whalers are using the park as well, and various other users of the park. We didn't come to the conclusion that there was insufficient space per se. It's more really around how that space is managed operationally and space is allocated, and whether there are the right mix of facilities there to support the users.
Sorry, that was sort of where my question was going. Obviously, this has been proposed by the rugby club, I believe. Like what they're proposing, is that going to be good for everybody, or like we might go down a track with them that doesn't include everybody else? So it's probably setting those expectations at the beginning so that they know there's more than them involved.
Yes, absolutely, and that was certainly something that came out through that process. I mean, one of the things that triggered that master plan exercise and the dialogue that we had with the various stakeholders there was, I guess you would say, competing demands for clubroom space there, and we have we, I guess, still are trying to work through and define exactly what the use model would be for a new facility there, but there certainly is a need for one.
Right, is there any other discussion or...
Just on that, Mayor, can I jump in, Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I think from the submission, the discussion was that the Whalers would stay at the current community centre and rugby. I suppose we're proposing a move to their own club, and then whether that involved anything else. But I think that was part of the concept, was splitting out those two organisations.
Yeah, so the Whalers approached council, I think, through the 2021 long-term plan process, with a concept for a facility, and then off the back of that, Arataki then came back and said, we'd like a facility, and we've been through a bit of dialogue with both of those clubs. Councillor Baker will remember a couple of hui in that regard. I think our general view is that it's not really appropriate for two facilities to be there, and we need to find a way for one facility to be made use of by multiple parties.
That it all seems to make sense. I guess, again, similar to Papamoa Rugby, I think, let's work with them and lean on them to partnership on finding a solution that works for everyone. I think there's another great opportunity here of the community delivering something that works for for both for everyone. So yeah, again, I'm supportive of working with them to try to find a solution here. So if we just put the resolution, this is again, it's a non-financial. Councillor Currat, thank you. Councillor Baker, thank you very much. Any discussion? Okay, I'll put that to the council.
Do we want to put dedicated multi-use sports facility? That's sort of what we're trying to talk about, isn't it?
Happy to include that. No. Good point.
Well, it's a dedicated sports facility, I think. Yeah.
Not retail. Not a movie theatre.
Yeah. Okay. Are we happy with that?
Councillor Baker.
Councillor Baker, you're going to talk? No. Therefore, ask all those in favour. Those against? That's carried. Thank you. The next on our agenda is investments into development of Judea Community Sports Club. And ask if there's any questions for staff on this one. Councillor Baker.
Tēnā koutou. Just clarity on what the short-term monitoring of the field use actually means and entails, and understanding capacity.
It's largely to do if we, for example, put lights on there and increase usage, it's understanding how much that field can actually withstand before we have to invest further in drainage and resowing grasses and that sort of thing. So we're just wanting to get a really good understanding as if more training is happening there and what work is required, what further investment might be needed before we commit to doing more investment. Yeah, and ongoing conversations with the club.
So I guess, again, like from Sportsfield's perspective, is there a need currently in that area, and is it used a lot currently, or how would that working with, because I understand it's privately owned?
Yes, so there certainly is a need for additional sports field capacity in that part of the city. I think one of the things that we need to work through, as well as understanding, per Alison's previous comments, the feasibility of investment in lights and potentially drainage relative to the additional usage that you would get out of it. There would need to then also be, and we have this planned, additional dialogue both with the rugby club and other users to make sure that they would actually make use of that space. We would just want to make sure that there is a community value proposition there.
And what's that land like down there? Because is it pretty wet and low-lying? So is that part of a challenge?
Yeah, so our initial, and the team have done a site visit down there. So, and there are two fields, right? There's the sort of number one field, which is somewhat elevated, although it does still get wet. And then there's a sort of number two field, which is down closer to the harbour. I think our initial take on it was, well, the number one field's got some potential, but probably the number two field less so from a broader community perspective beyond the rugby club there.
Yeah, Councillor Crowther.
Yeah, I'm aware of the usage here is not great, and part of that is the flooding potential in the winter, to put it bluntly, in the swampy area. But I guess I'm also interested, like, if it's only used for touch in the summer, and normally I've got quite extensive experience there. It's normally fine on number one, and even number two. can be okay in summer for months on end. So I'm looking, I go along to Mitchell Park, for instance, talk to the people playing cricket. They say, it's just no cricket grounds. We're just desperate, to get more cricket facilities. And I'm thinking this is not utilised. It's green space. It's kind of just big enough to be a cricket. The Mitchell Park's a bit bigger, but you know what I mean. It could make do in a pinch. Is that something you would say? This talk in the community of what people want in that side of town, does that stack up? If this could be a cricket facility for lower grade that doesn't need a big boundary, because that's where I see the value. It's not so much the winter, which could cause the ground to get damaged, but to look at the use of it for hard courts, the use of it for summer sports, and the use of it for better public access into there.
Yes, I certainly agree that those things, those opportunities need a better understanding probably than we've got at the moment, both in terms of the spatial feasibility of additional summer use as well as additional winter use, but also then the ability and willingness of those other potential users to make use of that space. And there's just a bit more work that we need to go through there to understand that.
I think just in support of that, probably slightly veering to our on-the-ground expert in Glenn, that from the club's perspective, that ground is used recreationally a lot by the wider community all year round. Dog walkers, mums and dads, kids on scooters, dodging potholes, all that sort of good stuff. You've got, as you come down the driveway, you've got this beautifully well-curated, well-drained reserve, and on the right side you've got huge untapped potential that with a bit of love and TLC and partnership could unlock massive amounts of possibilities for Tauranga whānui, let alone the local neighbourhood. And the club, as per their submission, written and verbal, was this when you ducked away? No, you were there. They did say that they'd absolutely be open to other partnerships, and if that's an opportunity for cricket, then I'm sure they would welcome that. In their high-level little plan that they put together, they identified opportunity for turf space as well as toilets and a playground should the partnership eventuate to that point. But the needs there, the partnerships there, and capacities there too.
Sorry, I do have a question. The presenters, it was a fantastic presentation and just the sort of thing we're looking for, getting untapped use of some of these areas. Are we talking to the right people on the use of the land? The sports club, are they the voice for the land, or is it somewhere else we have to talk to?
I think so. But again, we can double check that and talk through our Tauranga team just to ensure. So my understanding is the land is owned by a Māori trust. It's affiliated to the marae. But whether, I don't know offhand whether the marae owns the land or so I think so, but we can double check that.
Again, what sort of staff investment are we talking here around, feasibility study and ongoing, looking at what sort of suggested?
We would be looking to do all of this just within the capacity and capability of the team. So that's concept designs, if those are required, we can do those in-house. The engagement with the respective clubs, and then our operations team have got knowledge and know-how in respect of drainage, lights, etc. I don't think at this stage that we would necessarily need to spend any additional operational budget to make this happen. But.
And then we talked about lights here, if appropriate. So how do we, is that a decision you make as to whether that's appropriate or?
Technically, yes. So we have the ability to plan and do renewal reactive works across the sports field to make sure that it's keeping up with the capacity that we require. So within what we're allowed to do, that we could do the monitoring, make sure that we're getting what we need and pay for it out of the budget.
Cool. Councillor Crowther. Oh, sorry, Councillor Rolleston was first, sorry.
Thank you. Just probably picking up on Councillor Taylor's, about talking to the right people, assuming it's Ngāi Tamara Waho. It's really also, once we tick that box, this is a great opportunity to, because while we've just had conversations of a number of other sports clubs, this one, the particular, and there's a few other Māori ones that are contributing to our community. So we probably, and that's the communication, I would assume, with Kaitaka Wainga, acknowledging the unique differences. So while I think the whole broader conversation is supporting these, but this is a community asset broadly that's contributing a lot. So making sure, one, we tick that box with talking to the appropriate group, not forgiving Ngāi Tamara Waho and their contribution in this city as well. So there's an opportunity to partner and probably go forward together. Thanks.
Councillor Crowther.
Yeah, I'd like to make a suggestion, and then I can ask the question of whether you think it's a reasonable one, which is that the users at Ferguson Park are keen to get different lights there to make better use of their space so that they can actually be two-sided on some of the lampposts. Judea Park, having spoken to Dion down there, they don't need double-sided lights on the stands. They've got some stands, they just want some better lights. They have talked about having repurposed lights used by the council at other facilities, including Māori sports facilities. So the ideal to me in terms of resources would be if there was deemed to be a desire to invest in Ferguson and upgrade some of those lights with double-sided, to sort of, you know, use those resources, move them around, because to me that could be a real win and it would save us spending extra money for both facilities.
I think, yeah, part of that though was they were looking at Ferguson of upgrading the lights because the ones there are old and not fit for purposes.
Oh, so there are some new ones, I believe, as well. There are some that are needed that are new, and some that need to be upgraded, but some that have been, correct me if I'm wrong, recently installed there, but they are seeing how good they are, and they want them to be expanded by putting double-facing lights rather than just on one side.
Yep, so we're just about to start upgrading the lights at Ferguson, but potentially we could do it. We just need to make sure that it fits in with what, yep. So absolutely we can look at that.
Right, any further questions? If there's no further questions, we'll just put this up. So we're looking at G. Councillor Schooler, thank you. Councillor Crowther, thank you. Is there any discussion around this?
I just want to say I wasn't aware of this park until I happened to bike past it a couple of weeks ago. It was May. It was in full use on a Saturday. It's amazingly well connected to the bike tracks around it, and it's amazing green space in them, pretty close to the middle of our city. And I think if we can have a partnership with a landowner where we are adding benefit to them and they are enabling more community use, I think it's a great concept. I think that's sort of what I want to see more of in terms of how we do sport in Tauranga, and I think it's a really good conversation to be having, and if we can progress it, particularly if we can reuse what we've had elsewhere. I think just a question or a request back to staff that you just keep us up to date in terms of those conversations, because as we're learning about the best way to structure support for sport across Tauranga, it's really important that we understand how those communications are happening and making sure they're happening well. And just to say, you know, when we're pushing the boundaries a little bit on how much extra we can get, how that is, you know, how we respond to that and how it's responded to, because I think this sort of thing, you know, we need more green space. It's right there, and to me, it's a fantastic thing that we should be having a look at. And it was really well presented, I have to say, at the in the submission.
I see Councillor Schuler's got his hand up, but I'll just go to Councillor Crowther if he wants to speak, being the seconder.
Yeah, I strongly support this. Great to see it. I remember it was in the Otomotai spatial plan as noted here, and part of that rationale was because of a movement corridor as well. So I was thinking about proposing an amendment, but rather than being all formal, I'd just like to ask if the council might support basically getting a quote for what it would cost in terms of the capex and the ongoing opex to put in place a repaving along the access road, along the side of the park and around the back of the park to get to the point where they get to the parking area and what used to be the netball courts. Because from my perspective, this is partly about the aspirations of this community organisation. It's partly about getting better bang for buck from our green spaces, but it's also that we've got a neglected piece of public infrastructure which has been kindly provided by the Māori Trust or the Hapu, and that has not been able to be, because of the funding constraints they've got, not able to be properly maintained, and there have been health and safety issues there from members of the public that I'm aware of, just personally, where people, you know, basically trip in a pothole, kids fall over, get hurt, etc., just because of these big, as Hautapu said, you know, it's noticeably different to how well maintained it is just next door on the green space. So to me, if the council gave its blessing for that, I don't think it needs a massive staff effort, but just to get a price to come back to us with that, because if it's cost effective, it'd be a lovely gesture to that community to finally invest a little bit of love there around that public access that's very well utilised.
I think we can just add that as part of the feasibility study, so yeah, quite comfortable with that. Point well made. Any other, sorry, Councillor Schuler. You're on mute. Still on mute.
Hey, sorry, I was just actually texting, and thanks, Mayor. You're just supporting Councillor Crowther and the Mayor, that, you know, this is part, I suppose, of us understanding and unlocking what the amenity network is, which is, you know, there's been some good numbers suggesting that's an important part of what we deliver for the community is the amenity space. So we have an opportunity here to partner with, you know, the local hapu there that are saying they're open for business, I think, with their words, and really keen to, you know, bring their facility into community use as well. And as Councillor Crowther, as Glenn said, there's other opportunities that we can look at as a part of that feasibility study to unlock some of those, the parking in that as well. So fully support this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If there's no other discussion, I'll put the motion to the council and ask all those in favour. Those against? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. We'll move on to funding for Argos Gym Sports for new kitchen and cafe facility. And happy to have any questions answered. Is there any questions on this one?
Just in terms of, it is a different structure for us, and that's why one of the questions we've got. So do we have, and there is an ability to change the policy to allow this, but does that assume there aren't any other exceptions to the policy? in terms of an incorporated society.
I'm just looking at the other two. To my knowledge, we don't have many exceptions to the policy. I haven't heard of any in the time I've been here.
Yeah, I don't know any different from that. You can obviously make decisions that are in exception to the
Correct.
policy,
Yeah,
and
recognise that.
obviously that's within your gift to do that. It's usually useful to just note that Section 80 or whatever it is.
I just wondered if there are any current exceptions to this policy in existence.
Like I say, in the time I've been here, I haven't heard of anybody, so I would think, I can certainly find out, but I would think not.
Any other questions or? Any discussion? Councillor Scholar?
I guess there's a policy in place, and it doesn't seem as black and white to me that that's a no and that's a yes. I sort of, we know when we're looking at facilities and amenities that we are saying let's partner with entities or people or owners, and so to me I'm not as clear cut that therefore we shouldn't do this. I think there's a lot of people that are I think they did have numbers in terms of the people that are using the facility, so I tend to feel that it's as good a request for support of a facility that enables people to be out doing things as something that just is a charity, just because they've got a different status. I'm not sure I would cut it off. I still think it sounds like a good idea, and it's I think in a good position in terms of Central City again.
Yeah, I guess I struggle with this one. It just seems very out of scope for council. This is something that, it's not our facility. It's not in a green space. They're building a kitchen and cafe. I get they're trying to help fund themselves, which is admirable. But yeah, just it's completely out of our scope in my mind. And while I think they do a great job, and obviously 3,300 enrolments is very impressive. I'm not sure that this is where we and we have discussed a lot today around sports facilities, etc. They're all done on council reserves, and I think we have a duty to them. And I'm just not sure around this one. But
I tend to agree with the Deputy Mayor. I think they provide a facility that if they weren't providing it, council would probably be looking to have to provide, which was a pretty impressive building. It's quite large. Large numbers of kids participate in it. I don't wonder whether there's some other mechanism, some other fund they could apply for that we can maybe help direct them to. I can see the difficulties in their setup that's going to cause that, but we should acknowledge that they're actually doing quite a big thing for the city that we might otherwise be having a submission to supply a building worth much, much more than this.
And so we are going to be discussing a aquatic centre on tomorrow that we don't own and we are looking to support. I think it's, to me it's quite good that we don't own it. It's not our building. It's therefore not our operating costs. Whether the whole lot is support from a council, but I think it's just I do want to be, as I said, providing facilities for kids to have to get out there, and if somebody else is doing the hard work of owning the building and managing it and running it, then I think that's a good thing for the city.
Yeah, I guess, I agree around a lot of that, but I'm just not sure that providing a kitchen and cafe for a sports facility is really in our lane. That's just my comment. I agree if it's a grant for equipment to get more people into sport or something like that, to maintain their building or something like that, is probably a slightly different issue for me. But I'm not sure that this is a must-have. That's my personal view.
So if this was a request for support for some of the OPEX every year, you would have been more favourable to that?
Potentially, because that's more like the swimming pool example where the community get to use the facility because of the council support. I think that's just it's a sort of a sort of strange line, but yeah, Councillor, correct.
I do support the Mayor on this one. It is a successful operation, and when you go in there, it's like my daughter attended for a few years, and certainly well run. And I think given that they've got the ability to find other solutions rather than dipping into the ratepayer pocket for this facility, for the kitchen and cafe.
Is there any other discussion?
I'm just wondering, so shall we suggest that cafes are sort of out of scope for council? Is that your line, Mayor Mahe?
Well, if we can make money from it, I'm all for it. If it's going to cost us money, absolutely. Is there any other discussion? Otherwise, we can put the recommendation.
Has it been moved and seconded?
No.
I'll move.
Okay, Councillor Kurak, I'm happy to second it. Sorry, just sorry, the second that I
support that one.
so does that reconsider the requirement, or?
I don't think you need it if you're doing big line.
Well, currently they can't access funding.
But that big line is just a
Okay.
not really necessary though, is it? Work that probably doesn't need to be done.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's always an option if as outlined in that paper. Yeah.
So we don't need.
Yeah, we'll take out that one, so we've just got H. So I'll put that to the council. All those, this is declining, by the way, so all those in favour of declining, if you just raise your hand. Those against? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. All right, now we move on to funding for upgrade of third green at Bowles Matua. And ask for if there's any questions to staff.
Thank you. Is that a similar approach to what we're taking with all other bowling clubs around the city in terms of working with them, getting the case together and then applying for funding external
We can do. When I was nodding, I thought you were going to ask a different question. I think potentially there's a discussion to be had across where bowls is best to be in the city, and whether having 3 separate clubs is sustainable. And obviously there had been an initial discussion about some movement from the domain and things. So regardless of where this lands, there is ongoing conversations with bowls to be had.
Councillor Scholar.
I just had a question, and because I thought they talked about on the Monday night, I think, which is when they have their social matches, and I think they talked about a number of younger community using their facilities, but I couldn't find it in here or there. Did you have those numbers? And I just wondered, with that number of people playing, which I think they said was their revenue generating, whether some of this cost would be raised by that group or whether that made it actually feasible to keep it going. I just didn't quite know. That doesn't seem to be in here, and I don't know if it's important.
I don't have that detail. I think our take on this one was it kind of came out the blue a little bit. I had been in conversation with the Bowls Club a little while ago, more in terms of us being the landowner and them looking for letter of support as landowner to seek funding for some of their other facilities from other funders. I think our position as staff here is this could be something that council supports. You know, it is a sports facility that is used reasonably well by quite a large segment of the community. We don't have the details on the numbers there, but probably we would expect a little bit more in terms of cost clarity and a contribution from council rather than potentially the whole $180,000. And that's kind of what our thinking was in terms of what we then put forward.
Councillor Crowther, I think, just could answer the question.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've got the answer to your question, Deputy Mayor. So they have about 160 odd members, and that's declined over time, as bowling clubs have tended to do. But they've got about 150 plus people coming along on a Monday nights for those social events. And the issue is, without this extra capacity of, like, because that green needs upgrading, they've hit a limit. So they want to cater for more people, but that is not people who are paying into their club. They just pay $5 to turn up because they want to make it accessible to the community, because that's what attracts the people along. It fills a big social need, and people tend to come to that club and to the social night from across the west of Tauranga. It doesn't tend to, what I've heard is a lot of people transferred from Tauranga South back in the day when there was the issues between the bowling clubs, and that has sort of settled down. The Mount ones did their transfer, and all this happened in the past, but as of now, people have sort of settled into their clubs, and Matua has quite a viable thing, but they just want to cater more for community sports and recreation, basically.
Anyone?
Good. Has anyone talked to them about potentially a loan that maybe would allow them to do the work, and because this is their income generator, maybe they can pay that back to us over time? So the cost was nothing, but a bit of a interest maybe.
We haven't had that conversation, but it comes into the whole financial situation that we're going to be talking about a bit later as well, around that loan funding and what's available budget-wise. Yeah.
Councillor Kurat.
Yeah, I support the resolution. I intended to play bowls over the Mount Club a couple of weeks ago, and when I heard it was $5, I mean, it can be a lot more than that when people are willing to just front up and play. So potentially there's a capacity to charge more. And definitely, I think it's an opportunity for TECT or somebody else, a non-council entity, to fund the CapEx. So by us saying no, certainly doesn't rule out the delivery of that third green.
Councillor Scholar.
I think just further to Councillor Kurak, I think it's actually also really important that part of our conversations with with clubs and facilities is that they do need to understand how they support themselves as well. And I think in terms of this, I'm missing, I think we're a long way from actually saying let's have some money. I think we need to, I'm happy that you work with them, but I think a much better definition of, what are the 160, is that a good number, and could that go to 320, or is that actually going to go to 1600? And I think, and which I hadn't thought about in terms of the different clubs and how they work together, that let's encourage that to happen as well. So if we do see this again, then we have a much wider picture of bowls across Tauranga and where those people are coming from and what growth they might get if they invest this sort of money, because for 160 people it's a big investment if you're only paying $5 a night.
No, it's fine. Yeah. Is there any other discussion? Yeah, Councillor Crowther.
I'd like to do another tack on like I kind of did for the last one, but probably not as big. I'm interested in, they've got the solar powered light that's been put there, which serves as the parking lot for the Bowls Club, which is a emergency centre. It's a multi-use facility for the community. They've got a dark area where there's been sort of health and safety issues. I believe they've spoken to someone at council about putting up another light there. I think that would be really good to try to do that, if at all possible within existing budgets. And the other thing was that when council went in and did some work in the past, there's basically a lump of dirt that's got left there by the fence line, and I think it would have been a good gesture to get that sorted out for them, so that they can actually, people can have better access along there on the reserve. It's not the Bowls Club issue, but I think because there've been apparently some boundary readjustment or something which happened, or recognition of the correct boundary, and they've done their sort of side of it, but the council side, so it's a bit of a tack on, not part of the official kind of thing, but if you can maybe follow up on those, and happy to talk about it offline.
Yeah, I can get someone on my team to reach out to the club and see what we can do.
Yeah, I think for me, again, this is probably just a little bit outside scope of what we should be doing. It's a worthy cause, but I think clubs do have to sustain themselves, and for example, if you fully depreciate your assets, you should have the ability to be able to replace them when they come due, and that's what we're doing at council, and I think clubs need to try to do the same sort of thing. So yeah, I'm supportive of the resolution as recommended. Is there any other discussion around this? Yeah.
So a question then on the recommendation, an earlier comment. If we're not likely to be funding it, do we want staff to work with them?
I mean, you passed questions, but I think from our, if I'm allowed a button, I think from our perspective, it's working with bowls on the bigger questions. What's the future of bowls? How can we help ensure there's a sustainability? So I don't think it's it's not a conversation we'll probably have in the next week or two, but it's an ongoing conversation with bowls. And if we can do some of these smaller improvements that Councillor Crowthers has mentioned, we certainly will be able to do that. But I guess it's more about the long term.
And I still think I don't think we should be working with staff. The staff work with Matua Bowls to refine the proposal. If we're wondering whether it's actually the right thing, I think it's absolute work with bowls across Tauranga to understand how they can optimise membership and funding. Recommends that staff work with bowls across Tauranga.
Yeah, no, we are recommending that staff work with
Bowling clubs across Tauranga.
Can we just have bowling clubs across Tauranga to better understand?
Optimise their facilities and funding.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I support that for sure, so very happy to do that, and I can understand not wanting to just hand over, the folding notes straight away. I think for me the issue that could get lost is that there's been a big chunk of money spent by TCC on the Tauranga South Bowls, area, which may or may not end up being fully developed in terms of land purchase and stuff. And there's some sort of politics at play in the bowling, community around some of that stuff. But for me, irrespective of what the big picture is, this club has done well. They've invested in their club, whereas other bowls clubs have got more support from council. And the issue that I wouldn't like to see sort of fall by the wayside is just by sheer weight of numbers that other clubs kind of say, well, we've kind of got something, we're quite happy just to keep the money and wherever, and Matua misses out on something, because the big difference here is that, number one, they have been successfully pivoted, they've put in place their own, they've fundraised, put in the 2 greens, they've just hit a bit of a threshold where they've really gone out to their community, got a lot of money, they're having to, as staff know, they're having to redo their windows and things, and which again, the building's used for emergency hub purposes and other uses. So overall, I sort of see this as a bit different to just like another club. It's about someone who's trying to do something for the community, investing in a green, and I would personally like to think what could come out of it is that we actually come up with a way of match funding or somehow incentivising them to go through all that effort again, go out, get some community funding for it, but that we chip in for this, because this club has gone beyond, I think, what most of the others have done a whole lot of stuff on their own, and they're just reaching out, not because it's for their club, but because it's for the wider community benefit, to help the people in that demographic, especially who tend to not have played bowls. Sort of
we are contributing to the upgrade of the club, though, aren't we? Or for the joinery.
Yeah, but that's because of acknowledgement of a partial role as a emergency.
I think just as part of that, it sort of mentions in the report around the reasoning that there was some support for both the Mount and Tauranga South around I guess an incentive around amalgamation, which was I guess a strategic purpose, which right or wrong. But that's probably the difference in my mind. I see that as different. It doesn't necessarily create a precedence and the fact that they were for specific purposes. Is there any other discussion? If there's no further discussion, I ask if we've got a mover and seconder. I'm happy to move. Got a seconder, Councillor Schooler. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Yep.
4 words: live, learn, work, play. Meaning you can go in your own community and do things. If we don't support local bowls clubs, we're just going to have one big bowls club, like in all the problems with transport and everything we have for other sports. This is multi-use across the day and takes away a lot of pain for our city by putting it in a very accessible location.
Do we put in at the end of it, and after funding, comma, including the use of the development of localised clubs, of local clubs? Yeah, but that's because you're from Matua. I'm comfortable that if we are looking at bowling clubs across Tauranga to understand and optimise the facilities, I'm comfortable that our staff will be talking about what that looks like. They are confident enough to come back to us if necessary, and if they've got a great business case that says, hey, this is a sensible thing to do, I'm comfortable they will come back to us, and I would welcome that coming back to us when they've had a look at the situation across Tauranga.
Okay, so this one, I just note that it is declining is the recommended resolution. I now put this to the council. All those in favour? Those against? And Councillor Crowther will abstain. Thank you. All right. That is carried. Now, if we go down to the next one, which is it's either 89 if you're in the recommendations, if you want to see the options, it's 114. This one will be right up Councillor Morris's alley. Issues and options development of a Papamoa shared path. Are you guys? Do you want to do this now, or do you want to? Yeah. I just wonder if is this a different team, or you still okay? Cool. Okay. No, that's all good. So I again will take it as read, but I'm keen to open up to any questions. My first question is, do we have a price on the what the boardwalk cost per kilometre of a Mount shared pathway?
The existing one on the Mount?
Yeah.
What was that per kilometre?
No, just that was just a.
We have to come back to you on the per kilometre price. Sorry.
Cool. No, that's cool.
But we can do that easily.
Yeah. It would just be good to understand that.
It was 6.7 million, and I believe it's 4 kilometres from the Mount to there.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll just get that confirmed, but that would be good. That can go up on the board. Have we got any questions?
Looking through there, I'm pretty sure there were some numbers to give us a rough idea. I do wonder whether it's timely that we got a new price, looking at where the market is now compared to 2023. That would have been a different situation completely. I think the community demand for this is such. We've had a couple of people come and talk to us, gave some in the hearings, and I think it makes sense that we extend it and carry it on. So it'd be good just to see what a value for money current quote would look like for this, and probably one of the things is, I don't know who did the last one, but maybe spreading the number of people that are going to quote on it, try and get the number up, could drive the price further down. So I'd at least be supportive of pushing pricing. So does that make sense?
I'm just interested if we've, like I know we're talking about connecting to Marine Parade, but what sort of investigations that's been around, the route and why is this on the grass verge mainly rather than in the dunes, like the shared pathway at the Mount?
So you heard those questions?
No, I was
sorry.
being asked to move.
Sorry,
Sorry,
no.
I was being distracted.
Yeah, no, I'm just interested, like we talk about in this report, connecting to Marine Parade coastal path. So my question was, where are we at in that journey around, have we got a route that we'd use if that was the case? Why is this effectively on the grass verge rather than in the dunes like the coastal path? What are we looking at?
Two slightly different, I guess, sites in terms of what we're dealing with at Marine Parade and what we had at Papamoa. At Papamoa, we had the advantage of having a wide grass berm right on the road edge there that we could develop. As soon as we cross into the dunes, there's quite a lot of compliance costs that we have to comply with. So we are obligated to go and get a wildlife permit. We have to have people monitoring lizard populations. The costs escalate quite quickly. So if we can stay out of those significant natural areas from a construction perspective, it's definitely preferable and cheaper to do that.
Okay, yeah, I guess this is maybe we wait for the new RMA, but this is a discussion around like amenity versus what's cheap. I think, the use and, I think it's one of those things that if you had a coastal pathway all the way from the Mount down to Tumu, it would be a massive asset. And I think if you went from what we currently have onto a concrete path on the edge of a road, you completely lose the amenity value. You go from having a amazing asset, and we've seen the use of that coastal shared pathway up towards the Mount. I think you basically, it's two different things. One's an amenity that could be a big attraction. The other is just a mode of transport, to get from A to B. And while I support a mode of transport, I think there's a big opportunity there, and this is one that I think the value for money comes because of the asset you get at the end of it, even though the cost is higher. So I'm very supportive of looking at the potential long term of this connecting right down to the Mount. I think it would be an amazing asset, and used a lot more than building a concrete path or an asphalt path along the road. Yeah, Councillor Kurak. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so one of the options here is to consider commissioning some sort of investigation into the feasibility of, I guess, creating some sort of pathway beach side of the properties along Ocean Beach Road.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that's a piece of work that we could commission and report back. Obviously, it would need to be something that would have to be considered as part of a long-term plan investment. But I'm sure we could get to a point where we could provide you good information going into the long-term plan about the feasibility, potential costs and or impediments of doing that. That would get you down to, I think, Marae Nui area, and then it's a matter of what type of experience you want from there east, because already we have a portion of path developed, and maybe that's a conversation likewise we could have with the residents as part of a long-term plan investment as well.
Yes, Councillor Morris.
At the appropriate time, I have something to move.
Foreshadowing. Councillor Correct.
Well, in terms of Ocean Beach Road, that sort of immediately comes to mind as the Memorial Park walkway. You know, I think the beachfront residents along Ocean Beach Road probably treasure their privacy through that area in terms of, you know, perceived ownership. And so you get some resistance. So, but in terms of this project, I think that shared pathway through the stormwater reserve is a treasure. And I don't think we need to add to that. I'd prefer to focus on that, put the extension through. Currently there's a missing link there, and not focus on this. So yeah, I wouldn't support any further work on this. And by the way, we haven't got any money.
All right, is there any other discussion or?
So I mean, we love the idea. There's just no doubt about it. But it's also the practicalities of it. So, so that's why we've recommended that we do a bit of a plan for. We'd gone wider than just this walkway, but I'm just noting that if we are to do some work on sizing this. What the cost is going to be. While previously we said we can do that within staff, we would probably need some OPEX budget to do that. So the option would be potentially to put a bit of OPEX budget in next year, and for construction the year after, or put some money in the long-term plan for planning. So just can't do that one for free.
Okay. I guess, yeah, my other comment, and, you know, like if it's going to be a long time, then potentially we can, you know, continue with some of this as is. But, you know, again, you know, costed at over $1 million per kilometre, you know, and just noting what has happened from Ngaruawahia to Lake Karapiro, where they've delivered this kind of pathway for $250,000 a kilometre when it's a simple grass verge that you're delivering it in. Like when they deliver parts where they have to put bridges, etc., to go through gullies at $1 million per kilometre. So, you know, I think that's where I go back to Councillor Taylor. You know, that they should. You know, I think it was a long time ago, but the part from Cambridge to Karapiro was delivered at $100,000 a kilometre, and that's a 3 metre wide concrete path in grass. You know, so I think you know, $1 million per kilometre for a grass path, that's what I'd expect to pay for a coastal pathway through the dunes. You know, I think we're talking, you know, and I don't see how concrete is any more expensive than asphalt, you know, for example, with that. So, you know, I think we need to do a lot more work around that, but might hand over to Councillor Morris, who's going to propose a...
Thank you, Mayor. I would move slightly amended K, which reads, funds the Stage 2 extension to the Papamoa shared pathway and, rather than but, and requests the development of a citywide pathways plan for consideration through the next long-term plan. I have some rationale behind that and some kōrero around value for money as well, if there's a seconder. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That's a very high-level endorsement. Appreciate it. May I speak to it?
Yes.
Mayor, thank you. So as part of the Papamoa Comprehensive Stormwater Consent, which we have had to get in order to discharge to Kaituna and other such matters, we are having to upgrade Taylor Reserve. Without this pathway, that upgrade doesn't make a lot of sense. So we are doing it as part of the resource consent. This pathway is the missing link between Parton Road and that reserve. Completing stage 2, which we have said on our website, which I'm just looking at now, stage 2 estimated to be completed in 2025. That's still up there. By completing stage 2, then you have a link between the Papamoa Domain and then you have a link with Taylor Reserve. So it makes a lot of sense there. We already have consent, I understand, for stage 2. So it makes sense that that is the first cab off the rank in terms of capital spend. In terms of the other stages, I think that that would be appropriate to go into the prioritisation mix with the other pathways around the city. And I would also note that as part of stage 2, there are viewing aspects which are what really makes life worth living for people. And I just note that people in our disability community in Papamoa have very limited options for visiting and viewing the seaside. And so having those outlets where they can view the ocean really provides a significant benefit to them. I would also note that our first submitter to annual plan mentioned his success with community groups such as Papamoa Rotary, Lions, etc., in terms of funding some of the soft infrastructure around picnic tables and nice seating, and that he is even just sent me an email 5 minutes ago. There's a meeting which he's organised with council staff, and he wants Papamoa Rotary to attend. So I think there's an opportunity here for a bit of community development as well, in terms of getting our community involved in the project. I would also say, on a personal note, that going up to the boardwalk section and sitting on the dunes and sitting there and contemplating and seeing my community actively using the facility was a great thing to see. It is so well used. It is beloved by the Papamoa community. And to my esteemed colleague, Councillor Curak's point around we've got no money, that's a good statement. I would happen to suggest that perhaps there are other priorities we could look at deeper within the $500 million budget, which may need some good looking at. But this is something that will make a difference to the community. It's something that is used every day, and it makes sense because it links those two reserves. I think it will be popular with the community. It is a visual representation of things being delivered. And I would also make the point, yes, it was great value for money stage 1 because of the NZTA subsidy. And now the government has had as it does, a change of direction. But I would say in this case, it's important that if it's right for our community that we deliver it, and we don't need to be just chasing whatever the latest offering from the government is. It's right for our community, so my view is do it now.
All right, I think let's get some indicative support whether we want to move this forward. I think we probably don't want to commit to it right now in light of anything that we are going to fund. So, like I think we'll just have in principle, are we prepared to take this forward to keep looking at it? Well, yeah, I think that's another discussion, but like so if we want to put this up on the board as to consider it to go forward, right? I think we've got a majority, so we'll take that one forward as for the stage 2. Yeah. So. Yeah. So. Yeah, so that will just go forward.
So it's in principle.
In principle, yeah. So we haven't committed to that. It's it's in principle. Anything that we look like is going to cost us money has to be.
Your Worship, would it be helpful if staff, if we looked at potentially what could come out of a similar nature or?
So it's swapping out.
Similar magnitude, maybe a different nature.
Yeah, it might be helpful if we have a look and see.
Price and whether or not there's a suggestion about omitting something out of it.
I think there's an opportunity to deliver that for significantly less, I think. So. Yeah. All right. So we'll keep moving. The next one is additional funding to support paid lifeguard services at Tay Street. I think we've probably, well, I think we'll just go straight to, do we move this forward? Because, so I'm happy to move this forward in principle. And this is an in principle, put it up on the board. Well, we can, if we think we've got support for it, then, yeah, do we want to? Okay, I don't know, have we got any dissenters, or we want any questions? If we're going to make a decision, we better go through process. So, all right. Is there any questions for staff on this one? Is there? Yeah, Councillor Curran.
So if we say no, what happens?
That is why it wouldn't increase their service as proposed.
You won't get the 3 extra weeks.
They still do on their bikes cruise down there, up and down to monitor.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
our
This is
understanding.
not
It
you're
would
talking about
stay
dedicated.
the same as it is. This wouldn't increase.
But just from a usage perspective, it is, number one, it's a dangerous beach there, and it's really like the number of people swimming between the flags is high. And it's I think it's from a safety perspective, and that part of the beach is only getting busier.
Yeah, Councillor Curran.
Paper, scissors, rock.
Oh,
You're red. Red wins.
Is it looking like this? They're going to come back to us every year, or are they planning on building capability or some kind of sustainable financial practices? Granted, that I get that they don't make a whole bunch of money.
Effectively, they're asking for it to be permanent, but because it's an annual plan year, but it would come back through LTP for it to be ongoing.
So historically, I do recall council did fund a dedicated service at Tay Street in the past. I can't recall when that was, but what happened?
we still do, but it's 3 weeks shorter than everywhere else on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Mount Umano, Papamoa is 3 weeks longer. Yeah, so this is just the 3 week that we don't. Yeah. Bring it in line. So we've got, so we currently fund them at 361,000. So is there any other discussion or questions? Yeah. Councillor Schooler will second. Any further discussion? I think for me this is just about our people's safety. Obviously the lifeguards do a fantastic job, and for a fairly small investment, I think if we saved one person's life, it would be more than value for money. If we stop people getting into trouble, again, it's provides pretty good value for money. So, I think we're a very popular destination, and through December through to February. So, for me, this is a bit of a no-brainer in the scheme of what we do at council. It's a pretty small item, but big impact. So, I'll now put the motion to the council. All those in favour? All right. Those against? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. All right, we now we move on to the C track. This is for disabled people down at Pilot Bay to allow them to get into the water. So this is I think our second to last ones to complete this paper. Have we got any questions around this? Councillor Baker.
No questions. Happy to support the recommendation.
Cool. Okay, so we'll move straight into if we're going to support this, then I think we should put it on the board. So actually, sorry, is this, so you're supporting the concept and the feasibility study? Is that what you're suggesting? Not the actual funding of it? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, that's fine. Then
But saying that, we also on the principle that we don't do a whole lot of work unless we're intending to support it.
Yeah. No,
which I also really support.
Yeah. No, that's fine. So that's good steer from the deputy mayor. So obviously, if we go down this path, that we are potentially going to fund it if the numbers all work out. So I'll just put the motion. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you can talk. Yeah.
Sorry, just a suggestion, and I think we could get some good support from the Port of Tauranga. I believe a good public community thing that they could do, and I reckon you'd get 100% of the funding with a bit of luck. It's right on their doorstep, bringing in cruise ships. Worth talking to them.
Councillor Morris.
Yeah, and I note the Port of Tauranga's contribution to the boardwalk along there. I think it's something that would make them look very good, particularly in terms of cruise ship patronage of it as well.
Cool. All right. Therefore, I'll put the motion to the council. All those in favour? Those against? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. All right, so we will finish today's meeting on funding for nature and biodiversity initiatives. So again, we'll take that as read and ask if we have any questions for staff. Yes, Councillor Schooler.
Thank you for this, and I think just reading the submissions, there were a number of submissions about too many native trees, not enough native trees, bit of planting, not enough planting. I'm very supportive of this being retained, but I just wonder, how are you intending to, I guess, talk up a little bit about what this is doing and why, and are you thinking about getting more messaging, positive messaging about this? Because I think it's one of those things that can easily get cut because it's nice to have, but actually, if we look into the future, it's actually essential to have. So I'm glad Kaylee's in the room, because it's just, for me, so it's a question. Are you thinking about the positive communications you can get out of messaging about what the future benefits are for this, and current benefits are for a great city of Tauranga?
Part of the part of the program is one of our open space planners is actually pulling together a green investment program. So that means that we're actually building the evidence that we can share and how we can do the storytelling. So that'll be ongoing as well. And as we're moving through the AIP and we're increasing our canopy and doing all those things, but that's a key focus of what we'll actually be doing as part of the AIP.
I just had sorry, Councillor Baker, yeah. I just had a question around the saying if we keep it at 800, there's no impact on the budget. My understanding was we had taken 200 out, but was that not taken out of the draft budget?
It started off at $1 million. Our budget was $1 million. We took 200K out of the budget, which brought us down to the 800.
Oh, okay.
I the same as you, and then we've consulted on that, so I understand the 800 is still in the budget.
Okay, sorry, I thought it was 800 going down to 600, but...
That was consulted on that or something, but I think it's sticking, it's 800, and I'm getting nods over here, 800 is
So
in the budget.
800's in the budget's no impact. That's just wanted to... Yeah, Councillor Baker.
At the joint Tauranga Moana committee with the councils and mana whenua, there's kind of a plan that was presented around the care of Te Awanui, as well as some other kaupapa ranging from walkways from like Otani Wainuku right down to the ocean. Is our funding aligning with some of that stuff, or was this already allocated elsewhere?
As part of the AIP, we are looking at those ecological corridors and creating and enhancing them, so that's leading into what you were saying.
Councillor Rolleston.
Yeah, probably just similar line to that corridor and coming into this new, but when we put this initiative together, I assume we did it in partnership with Tangata Whenua. So have we had, on that assumption, have we had consultation with them around this proposal of the reduced budget?
So the Biodiversity Action and Investment Plan was put together in consultation with the community. Was put together in consultation with the community as a whole, including mana whenua, and also was channeled through Tauranga in its formative stages. As we put together individual programs and projects, we then obviously have those appropriate kororu with mana whenua. And I think, look, as we put together a more comprehensive plan for the longer term investment of this money, beyond just the strategic principles of it, it would again be appropriate to go through that process.
Councillor Crowther.
I've noticed that the Climate Action Investment Plan, which got developed at the same time, has had a cut of 800,000, so I've got the information from Nick around that. So in there is a cut of 200,000 to green infrastructure, wetlands, plantings. So I've always struggled with this, like trying to understand where the boundaries lie here, because to me there is something quite special if we can tick boxes like green infrastructure, as well as, you know, you're sort of planting trees, which is cool, but if you can actually get better bang for buck by getting other outcomes from that investment. And I'm just a little concerned that we're all probably a little blind to the unintended consequences of some of these cuts in spending. And it just struck me that green infrastructure is something that we have a big deficit of in the city. And I know there's a great goal to get 30% canopy cover, but I haven't bought into that being the key issue we face. You know, I guess it'd be nice to get a bit more information at some point about whether we're really prioritising the things that are going to make the biggest difference from an environmental and social perspective. Because some of the stuff that's coming out, you know, eco-design advice, stuff like that will have tangible benefits to people. And I'm not sure that all the planting is necessarily going to be the best bang for buck in terms of that wider nature, biodiversity, environmental investment by the council. So if you could tell me everything, Yeah, what do you reckon about that, guys?
So I've got a response, because it's similar to what you raised at the capital program, so I've got a response that I was going to send out to you that just sort of starts to clarify the difference between the nature AIP and the climate. But potentially we could look at doing a workshop with council to go further through, or briefing to go through the difference and what's planned coming up and how they're working together, because there definitely are some synergies across both, and then some clear work streams as well.
Through the chair, that'd be fantastic. So thank you, Alison.
Yeah, Councillor Taylor.
Sorry, I might not have read it right. Can I just get clarification? So there's two things talked about on this under the heading of issue. The first one is the $800,000 budget, and then the second one is about pest control. Is that additional, connected, part of it? It doesn't appear in any of the...
Yeah, Bay Conservation Alliance submission.
So that would be a component of that programme of work, and one of the things that we potentially do in partnership with organisations like Bay Conservation Alliance.
Just sorry, we can't quite hear. Yeah.
Apologies. So that would be a component of that programme of work, and something that we tend to deliver, I think, in partnership with organisations like Bay Conservation Alliance, Space for Nature,
So
Enviro Hub.
As part of the 800?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
All right. Is there any other discussion on this or questions? Therefore, I think as it's part of our current budget. Oh, sorry, Councillor Schuller.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a question. If, for example, we did pull back on this, I know we have already come back from $1 million to 800, and you're looking at some of the other things we are looking to support, toilets, or the Tay Street or whatever. If just a question to staff, if we did pull this back in the nature of $100,000, still assuming, what level of impact will that have on delivery? And obviously understanding that then that could be caught up again in future years to a degree. Can you give us an indication, if we took another 100,000 out of this, it's still 700,000 or whatever? Is that going to significantly impact the continuation of good work in this area, or is it
We have allocated to spend the 800,000 pretty easily, and we could easily spend more as well to continue what we're trying to do across the AIP and what we want to do or need to do across the city. I mean, ultimately, if money was taken out, it would just slow things down, and we'd have to have a discussion about what we didn't do. And I guess that comes to council's priorities about what they want to invest in, but we can quite easily spend the 100,000 well and get good outcomes.
Yes, so thanks again, Mayor. So that money is all that's allocated as it is, the 800,000.
All right, I'm going to put the resolution, if we've got a mover and seconder. Councillor Taylor will move. Thank you. So this is already part of our budget. So, yeah. Councillor Baker will second. Thank you. Ask all those in favour. Those against? That is carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm just going to, I'll move that we adjourn the meeting until 9 a.m. tomorrow. Have I got a seconder? Councillor Taylor, thank you. All those in favour? Those against? We will adjourn till tomorrow at 9 a.m. And can we just ask Councillor Taylor, Councillor Rolliston to give us a closing karakia. Thank you.
Kia noi tātou, kia tau, kia tātou, kato te atawhai o tō tātou ariki I kraiti, me te aroa te whiwhitanga ki te wairua tapu, o ake ake, amene.
Thank you everyone, making good progress. We'll see you at 9 a.m. here again tomorrow.
Might be able to get an end, eh?
The wrong way.
That's what I was hoping for. Should have been where we started.
So really, it's just. It's not to say that they won't be supported, but they just won't get the exclusive. Hey. Alright, see you guys tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
Yep.
Oh,
10
8
and
o'clock, hey, I won't be able to make it.
10 and another
8 o'clock.
10.
No, we've got at 8 o'clock. The special committee.
What's special about you?
Our special committee.
Don't want to know. We don't want to know. Don't ask. Best not to ask these things.
Who's having a roadie? You know.
No, I gotta go.
You get over to the kids. Tana's a bit unwell.
Kenny, you having a roadie?
No, I gotta go. Got to pick up some peeps.
We're trying. We've got this thing that in the next 4 years we have to go to every licence to operate. No, where they're paid licence to occupy a town. I've got a very poor response from my team.
Oh yeah,
They're not very good.
Goals, eh? Goals. Tomorrow.
Alright, let's hold the line. Alright, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I'll leave them overnight. Charge it. Kid can go in the corner. That's a horrible thing. Yeah, so he needs to be able to go around the corner. Much better than I'm here. I know, he does. I was in one of those little rooms about swimming pool and I couldn't see a thing.
It is very soon. It is. So that's going to take the afternoon.
You reckon we're on time? On time enough?
Or a spade, as an alternative? By a spade?
Where I come from, it's called a long draw.